Good morning, afternoon, or evening, everybody, and welcome to Pangolin, the conservation podcast, the show dedicated to exploring and amplifying the world's underappreciated conservation stories. The stories that inspire me, and I hope will inspire you too. I'm your host, Jack Baker, and welcome to the final episode of Songs of the Skies. For those of you who do not know, I was recently invited to Cardiff to host Songs of the Skies, a concert put on by Sinfonia Cymru. This performance showcased 3 incredible pieces of music, all inspired by the wonderful world of birds. And across this series, I've been taking you backstage to chat with the musicians and composers behind this incredible performance, to learn about how we can use and how they used music for good. Over the last 3 episodes, this has meant I've been joined by some of the most incredibly talented, incredibly inspiring people I have ever had the pleasure of chatting to. In episode 1, I talked to Caroline Tress about how we can use music to inspire people to care about nature. In episode 2, Joy Becker and Darren Gallagher taught us about how you can create and curate hope. In the 3rd episode, Aisha Critchlow and Lynn Henderson explained how they merged their loves of nature and birding. Plus, they also told us about how they produced some of the most incredible wildlife film I've seen in a very, 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 very long time. And today, in the final episode, I am joined by Mark Boden and Fennella Humphreys to discuss an incredible piece of music, Chasing Sunlight. Chasing Sunlight tells the amazing story of the Arctic Tern, which, if you don't know, is one of nature's greatest and most epic quests. We will hear about Mark's time learning from these birds on the Isle of May and on Anglesey, and how Fennella then took the music that he'd put on the page and brought it to life in such an active, inspiring, amazing kind of way. Before I let that interview play, and since this is the last episode of the series, I would also like to say a huge thank you to everyone on the Sinfonia Cymru team who invited me to take part in this event. It was an absolute honour, and you were all so welcoming. You made it such a joy, and it's something I never thought I would ever get to do. So thank you so, so much. I would also like to thank Caroline, Joy, Darren, Aisha, Lynn, Mark, and Fenella specifically for their incredible insights and making the time to chat to me on the show. Finally, I would like to thank all of you for listening. If you've only just joined us this series, make sure to subscribe and jump back into the back catalogue to kind of explore some of the other amazing stories that we've gone through in our time. And if you are have been here for a long time, thank you so much doubly, because you are the reason I get to go and do so much of this and host concerts. Who'd have thought I'd have done that? I just sit on a computer all day. I don't get to host things. No, thank you so much. It's, the best. With all of that said, I just want to say another huge thank you for listening, and I hope that this series has I hope that it's inspired you as much as it inspired me, and I hope the stories you've learned inspire you and make you question how we do conservation, and make you question how we play music, and make you question how can we do things in more creative and exciting and inspiring ways. With all of that said, thank you so much for listening. And I hope you enjoy Chasing Sunlight. Enjoy! Welcome back to the show. I am now joined by Mark David Boden and Fennella Humphreys, who I have just been so honoured to watch kind of talk about and play Chasing Sunlight. And we're going to talk a little bit about the creation of that piece, as well as the kind of how it was brought to life. I'm very excited. And first of all, thank you so much for taking the time out of a very busy day at the National Museum Wales to talk to me. Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure.
The pleasure is all mine. It's been such an inspiring day, and I think something I love doing is learning about different ways of telling stories, and this has been such an inspiration to me. I know when I go away from this, I'm going to be change a lot of the things that I do and think about things very differently. So it's very exciting. Before I guess we get into the chat about the piece and how it kind of came to be, I always like to ask my guests, do you want to introduce yourself? Because I know what websites and Instagram and all of these things tell me, but you know yourselves far better. So Mark, do you want to go first and say, who are you? What do you do?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Mark Boden, and I'm a composer. I wrote Chasing Sunlight for Fennella.
And Fennella?
I'm Fennella, and I play the violin. And Mark obviously wrote Chasing Sunlight for me to perform, and it's fantastic. And it's been such a roller coaster of excitement and, just putting it together, seeing the piece come to life over the last little while, and it's been great.
It's I like how whenever you ask someone who's incredibly talented, I feel like saying, "Oh, I play the violin," with such like an understanding. I was like, that was one of the most incredible pieces of, just for anyone, context for listeners, very humble, very, very humble. No, it was.
I don't know, what do you say? I mean, I spend most of my life with a piece of wood that's got like strings attached to it with some horsehair. I spend all of my hours of my life just screeching. I mean,
again, we're really underselling the talent there. No, that's, I mean, and I love it's something that everybody who I've interviewed who has talents is like, no, please don't compliment me, I just do this. No, that's amazing.
I swear, you spend all of your life, I mean, just having to find all of the faults in everything that you do. It feels very strange to be complimented. And I think it's something for a lot of creatives that people find it quite difficult to receive compliments graciously. Because they're like, yeah, but...
Yes. Yeah, you'll listen back to this. If you listen to any of the other episodes I've recorded, I think every guest has said exactly the same thing. So it's clearly a mutual trait between like conservation-y people and musicians is like this, no, like, but before we dive too much into, I guess, the psychology of musicians, we're obviously here to talk a little bit about Chasing Sunlight, which I've just heard for the very first time in its entirety. It's an incredible piece of music, and I wondered, just to get us started, for anyone who maybe hasn't heard it, wasn't here today, do you want to just tell us, Mark, a little bit about what the piece of music tells the story of, and then we can get into how it came to be.
Yes, sure. So, as I mentioned earlier, kind of on stage to the audience, I need a concept to be able to start writing. I need the piece to hopefully resonate with audiences and have something that they can connect to. And I'd read a lot about terns and was fascinated by this idea of this tiny bird that weighs sort of the same as a Kit Kat Chunky, and it goes 40,000 miles around the world and then returns to its own breeding site. And but as it fledges, it goes on this epic journey. And obviously, writing a concerto, performing a concerto, bringing a concerto to life, there's obviously loads of journey metaphors just within that. So we used this bird as a sort of starting point, and then tried to consider what other elements that I could connect with, that the audience could connect with, might come from that. So imagery of the sea, the sky, the sun, the idea of the journey for Fennella as a soloist, and also this kind of connection between the outer movements. There's a sort of cyclic nature to the piece, which is, I think, quite unusual in concerto forms, where there's a good degree of repetition at the end as the bird moves back to where it sort of started.
Yeah, yes, I got, and I should also say, like, I am, despite being like one of my best friends who kind of helped me link up with the organisation Becky, working for Sinfonia Cymru, I've never been, I've never had the opportunity to learn how to play an instrument or do music. Like, it's something that, like, in school and stuff, I never had the opportunity to do. So I picked up on that, and I was like, wow, I'm a music person now. Look at the repeating, like, wow, he's telling a story. But it's like, no, it was like, yes, that's incredible. I wonder, like, why the tern? Like, what was it about that particular story?
I think it's the size of the migration. So it's got the longest migration of any bird. I think that it's a really beautiful bird. It's sort of this pure white colour. Obviously, it's an Arctic Tern. It's got this cool little black cap on it, and just the idea that it nests on the ground. I'd spent sort of time on the Isle of May, sort of researching a variety of sort of seabirds and their flight paths and just their behaviour to try and inform gestures from within the piece. And I think the tern's just captivating. I mean, the distance alone, the idea that this chick fledges and then just goes its own way. And again, I think there's so many links there with journeys that musicians take, and at some point they have to build a career and just set off and not have the support around them that they perhaps once had, and that's the same as a composer as well. So all of these things kind of tie together in a loose way, which I think is quite helpful.
That's actually that's an incredible way of kind of linking it, not just to not just to nature, but how it kind of, it's always nice when you can find those things that reflect, and I don't know, it always is something that like, when something reflects your personal experience, right? It's so much easier to kind of find connection with it. Like, the reason the show is called Pangolin is like, I started all about this podcast started when I was kind of working, doing my MSc, and they were like, do you want to write a dissertation or make a podcast? I was like, no writing, no, I'll do this. And yeah, I found this creature that like was kind of misunderstood, kind of didn't know where it kind of belonged, and it was that kind of like, oh, so for someone who's going into conservation, or like going into music, when you find that kind of thing that you're like, that speaks to me, of like, I also don't know quite what my career is going to look like in this field, or where we're going to go, or the adventures, or like, people might not quite understand what you're doing. Like, it's a really amazing thing. I guess like, talking a little bit, because I'm from Fife, so the Isle of May is not far away from me. No. I wonder, like, how did that kind of come into, did that change maybe the way that you plan to do things, being around the birds in real life? Did that change things?
Definitely. And actually, that visit came after some of the initial material had been written. It was a way of expanding my knowledge and of the bird. It was a great opportunity to go and spend a good few days around sort of seabirds generally, and that definitely influenced the way we move out of the first movement into the second, which for me is much more about the sea and flight and waves and repetition. And that was one of the things that I found really captivating, that these birds they're just everywhere all the time. They're so busy, there's so much energy there, and that obviously links into elements of the really busy third movement as well. So one of the things I really noticed as well was their flight patterns. They've got such a rhythm and a beat to them, and I think in some ways that definitely had an effect on some of the energy that's in the third movement, which is quite kind of riff-based, and there's a lot of repetition within that part of the piece. So it was a very informative sort of few days up there. Yeah. And beautiful.
Yes. It's like I know we're in Wales now and we're celebrating a Welsh, but I'm like a little bit of Scotland.
Scotland is
also,
also beautiful. Yeah, absolutely.
No, it's an incredible place to visit, and if anyone is listening and is in Scotland, like, especially because just the sheer number of, when I first visited the Isle of May, it was one of those places where I was like, we'll maybe see a couple puffins, or we'll see this, and you arrive and you go, this is the most birds I've ever seen in my entire life. It's an incredibly beautiful place. I wonder then, like, you obviously have this experience with the birds and seeing and writing and kind of translating this experience maybe onto the page and onto paper and into something that will become, again, alive in a different way. And then you come in and you are kind of influenced maybe by, like, how do you, maybe this is a silly question to ask, but like, as someone who doesn't know music, I'm like, this is so intriguing to me, of like, how do you take like this story that has been translated into music, then you have to bring it to life almost. How do you kind of go through that process?
I mean, part of it is just the abstract nature of music, that you see the dots on the page, and as long as they have, which in this case they absolutely in buckets have, there's integrity and they make sense, and the story is told beautifully without words. You don't need the knowledge, actually, almost of the background of the piece to be able to make it make sense, because it's all infused into the notes. But equally for me, it's always good to kind of slightly get in the composer's head of where they were thinking and what they were, and especially when something is kind of programmatic like this, that there's a very specific thing. So I've spent over the years a lot of time in Orkney, not knowing anything about birds, but sitting on these tiny islands, just watching birds and not really knowing what I was looking at, but being intrigued by watching the way they move, the way they interact with each other, and watching the sea as it changes, from minute to minute. And I now live on the south coast of England, and the same thing. I just love being by the sea. I love looking at the sea. I have gulls nesting opposite my bedroom, so I spend a lot of time talking to birds and seeming like a mad person. But no, it's something like this, when it is taking is its material something that you already find super interesting, even if you don't have any knowledge, and knowing those feelings and trying to infuse your playing with that other element of what it feels like to fly, even though we can't possibly know, but what you imagine it might feel like, and to feel that, like you say, the way the wings move, and the way the sea crashes, all of those things, even if you haven't experienced them in that way, you've experienced the imagination of them from seeing your surroundings. So it's kind of that twofold thing that, on the one hand, in an abstract way in the music, actually it's all there for you. But then there's that added element with this that you can, all that pictorial stuff that you can bring to it.
No, I think that's amazing. I also laughed when you said about the I seem like a crazy person talking to birds, because I think in any other room, in any other venue maybe, but here today when we're celebrating birds, absolutely not. And
that's true.
And I also think it's something about the connection to nature though, right? Because we see people maybe talking to thinking about if I talk to birds, or if I do this. The way people talk to their pets, their dogs, their cats, that's completely normal. But as soon as something's outside their house, everyone goes, that's not crazy. That's perfectly normal. Or maybe that's just me justifying myself as well.
No, I got a cat. I'd never had a pet before, and a couple of years ago I got a cat, and the person who I rehomed it from was like, okay, so you just have to keep talking to her. So the first few days I was like, hi, so you're a cat, you're living in my house now, so how's that for you? And now it's we'll have conversations I'll talk to her in real words, but I'll also kind of mimic her noises, and I must sound like a complete mad person, but it's amazing the way your whole interaction changes with creatures that aren't human beings, that the conversations that you'll have with creatures that don't speak your language, but it doesn't matter. You're still conversing. Yeah,
and you still understand each other, and you still kind of No, that's I'm the same, and I was looking after a friend's cat not that long ago, and it was the same of now I'm talking to just a room, no, because there's another living thing in it, and it went from very calm, lovely chatting to when she disappeared up the chimney, me going, no, Bean, no, why have you done this? So different levels of calm and enjoyment and connection, but no, that's probably completely irrelevant for what we're talking about. I guess the other kind of last kind of thing that I kind of wanted to ask both of you, I suppose, is the person who put this together and the person who kind of performs it, is when people listen to this story in this way, I wonder what you hope they take away from it, right? When you've heard the story in a slightly different way, what do you hope to take away?
Yeah, I mean, it's a tricky one because we've spent a lot of time talking about the programmatic context of the piece, but actually I hope it's just a good piece of music. I mean, ultimately it needs to be a good piece of music that resonates with people, and the story provides a degree of context, but I don't expect people to kind of buy into all of that, and hopefully there are things that they can take from it. So whether that's the beauty of the natural world, whether it's the way that is being affected by our actions or inactions, and they can add all sorts of things like that, but also other things that have come up out of it. The idea that in nature, migration is seen as a very positive thing. Yeah. We're impressed by migration, and then when we look at human migration, it's often not viewed in that same positive way. So there's lots of different things that can kind of come out of this, I suppose. And also hope they make their own story to some extent. The piece is very clearly in different moods, tempos, speeds. Some of it feels really energised and very uplifting, and then there are moments where it's a lot darker, and hopefully their minds will be informed by the images, but might wander to create their own story about what this little bird might have experienced, or their own journeys in life, because ultimately it's about journey.
That's really, really beautiful. I don't know, is it a similar kind of storyline for you, or what is your kind of thought?
I think we're, as humans, we're so keen on doing the right thing, and people always say, I haven't really been to a concert, and I don't know what the right thing is, what the right etiquette is, how to listen the right way, all those things. And the thing is, at the end of the day, there is no right. I think it's what yes, there's so much imagery with this piece, and there's so much that you can take from it or bring to it that's there in the programmatic side of it. But equally, I mean, at the end of the day, music is about how it makes us feel. That's the whole point for it, and it's going to make everybody feel different because everybody's going to come to it with different stories and different journeys, and it's letting it make you feel, I think, at the end of the day. So that you experience those emotions and feelings that the music can bring to you.
Sorry, no, just one of the things that's been so positive about the piece that as a composer you can't control or write into the score, but is seeing people dance around to it as they're playing it, to see players smiling and looking like they're really enjoying what they're doing, and that's an energy in there. Something that, as I say, is very hard. I can't control that. I'd hope that might happen, but that's, I guess, them enjoying the story and the journey in their own way.
And the rhythms and the melodies and the everything that piece is infused with. It's just a joy to perform.
And I think you could tell that is that there was beautiful visuals, right, going on behind you.
Which I've still not seen. One day.
Just mid-performance later on, just turn around. But the focus was so much on the that was a beautiful compliment. But the way you were all bringing it to life as this kind of unit was so incredible. And it was like one of those ones where I'm kind of like, I'm looking up occasionally to see, there's a turn or there's this dramatic thing happening, but the focus was so on you and the music. It was I completely no, that's brilliant. That's amazing, and it's added. I keep saying this, but every time I speak to somebody here, I get another layer of appreciation for all of the things that are going on, and it's been so fantastic to get to kind of chat to you. The last question I ask everybody just before we wrap up. My podcast is all about underappreciated, misunderstood creatures, plants, animals. So my favourite question to ask, that I ask everyone, is you can pick the Arctic Tern if you would like. If someone's listening to this and is intrigued by kind of underappreciated strange creatures, what would you tell them your favourite underappreciated animal, plant is? Is there one that comes to mind?
Oh, you said animal. I thought you were going to say creatures, in which case I just said musicians.
Musicians? I mean, creature. We can go with musicians. They've never been mentioned before. We've had all kinds of things, but musicians has never been one.
I mean, despite utterly hating them at the moment for eating all the vegetables that I planted, I love snails. I absolutely love snails. They're so beautiful, and they're really fast. Yeah.
And they get places where you're like, where have you come from? How have you gotten into my house? How have you gotten through this way?
Not so much into it with slugs, but snails. And they're really tiny ones when they're babies. I mean, how that shell has formed is amazing.
Yeah, and they're one of those ones where every time you find them, they're one of the there's certain animals that I think over time you become normalized almost into your brain of we see these all the time. Every time I find a snail, I'm excited to see a snail. That is a fantastic one. And then Mark?
I might go for the slow worm. I think the slow worm's underrated. Sort of, it's like a snake, but it's a lizard really, isn't it? Isn't it a legless lizard?
I think,
which obviously sounds just like a snake. It might be completely wrong here, but anyway, we see them in the garden sometimes. So when it's hot, they go under sort of rockeries and stones. Wow. I'm always impressed to see a slow worm. They sliver off so quickly, so they're quite fleeting. And they're quite impressive.
I like this, and I love your answers, especially because yesterday I made a joke when I was talking with Lynn and Aisha that they mentioned a mammal and a bird, and I was like, we need to keep expanding, and I wonder if by the end of the week we'll also have a reptile and other things. So now we've covered a lot of animal groups, so I'm like, we need someone to mention a plant. I think we're doing well. No, that is another fantastic choice, and another thing, right, of these things that are in our lives that we should appreciate more for when they're around, and try and maybe relate to, maybe just have curious mind about. No, that's fantastic. I guess the final thing I will ask is if anyone wants to keep up to date with kind of the work that you're doing, where would you point them? Is it websites, Instagram? Where should people go to keep up to date with work that you're doing?
Both.
Both. Okay.
I can say.
I will get all of your Instagram and details off everybody,
thank you.
and I will put them in the description of the episode. So if anyone is intrigued, they can go down there and find all of that. I'll also put all of the information for the podcast in the description. So if you're on Instagram or our website anyway, you want to have a look, we're at Pangolin Podcast on everything, and I'm at The Only Jack Baker on Instagram, so you can follow us there. With all of that being said, I just want to say a huge thank you to the listeners for listening and tuning in. I know you will be feeling as inspired as I am, hopefully. And also, of course, a huge thank you to the two of you for your time during a very busy day here at the museum. But thank you so much for making the time. It's been absolutely fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
No, thank you so much. And I guess with all of that being said, make sure to subscribe to the podcast because we have even more amazing content all about music and birds and performance and all of these things coming up over the next little while. And goodbye. Perfect.
Thank you. Well done.
Thank you.